Greetings. We're on what page?
We're on page 87 of Crisis of Conscience.
Roy has been discussing the surprise, even astonishment, when Fred Franz could only list by name one teacher, himself for this current generation of witnesses. And this is very important because they're trying to publish a book called Commentary on the Letter of James, and Fred is objecting to some of the ways, well, he's objecting to something James said right in the letter. Not many of you should be teachers. And he wants to limit it apparently to a very few, even though in the text it's about local teachers. It's not about governing body at all. James is a part of it. If there was a governing body in the first century, James is definitely on it, but he's not talking about that. He's talking about local churches. Not many of you should be teachers.
Okay.
So we go on.
There is another reason why there was such an evident contradiction between certain bold, forceful statements made in print, as in the tail wagging the dog articles, and the comparatively timid, puny reality actually existing. The reason is that the officers of the corporation could rationalize that a small representative change or reform would suffice as substitution for or a token of a larger, genuinely meaningful change. As an example of this, the mere fact that in 1971 President Knorr had decided to relinquish his monopoly of the chairmanship at the Bethel dining tables, sharing it with the other members of the board of directors, and also had decided to allow them to serve on a rotational basis as chairman of the governing body sessions, was viewed as all that was needed to demonstrate that the corporations and their officers were in fact directed by and submissive to the governing body, and that the dog was indeed wagging the tail. No other tangible action or significant change had taken place in the authority structure, nor was it viewed as necessary to fulfill the impressive picture painted.
That Fred Franz could so view matters seems evident, particularly so since, surprisingly, over 20 years earlier, back in 1944, he had written articles for the Watchtower that contained all the basic points on elders and overseers that appeared in the Aid Book. So that's what? 27 years before Fred Franz knew all this stuff about elders. And why aren't they applying it? Despite this, no change whatsoever took place back then in the congregational arrangement. But it had been said, it had been published, and this was viewed as enough. In those articles, 1944 was presented as a marked year in Bible prophecy, and this mainly because an amendment had been passed whereby voting rights in the corporation would no longer be based on a $10 donation, as previously. Instead, a maximum number of 500 persons selected by the corporation's board would be the only ones with a right to vote. Anyone who's attended an annual meeting of the Watchtower Society, where elections of directors take place, knows that it is extremely routine and that voting is mainly a mere formality. The bulk of the voting members know virtually nothing of the inner workings of the organization and have neither influence, voice, or control as to the policies and programs of the organization. The actual business part of the meeting usually takes no more than 1 hour. Then it is over until another year passes.
Yet the adoption of this amendment as to voting members was presented in articles in the Watchtower of December 1st, 1971, written by Fred Franz, as being an occasion of such significance and magnitude that it became a focal point in the explanation of the prophecy of Daniel 8, verse 14, regarding the 2,300 prophetic days connected with the bringing of the sanctuary into its proper condition. I doubt that one witness in 1,000 if shown that verse today, would ever connect it up with 1944. I don't even think that many. And the corporation amendment made there then. Yet that remains the official explanation of that prophecy to this day. It was another example of the ability to take an event of relatively minor effect and then to clothe it with symbolic value as being of great significance. On August 15, 1975, the Committee of Five finally presented its findings and recommendations. On behalf of the committee, I prepared a document of 45 pages, setting out the historical and particularly scriptural reasons for recommending that the basically monarchical structure should change, plus 19 pages outlining a system of governing body committees for directing the different areas of activity. The initial document ended with this paragraph.
Quote, all the deliberations of the Committee of Five have been made with much prayer and careful thought. We sincerely hope that God's Spirit has guided in the results and pray that they will be of some assistance to the body in reaching a decision. It is hoped that the adjustments recommended, if approved, will contribute toward an even more pleasant, peaceful relationship among the members of the governing body, helping to eliminate the tension that at times has surfaced in our meetings. It is also hoped that the recommended adjustments will, if accepted, serve to enhance and make yet more prominent the headship of Christ Jesus and the spirit of genuine brotherhood found among his disciples. And Ray ends with the comment, those words express my sincere feelings and hope. I could not see how they could be viewed as a challenge to Christ Jesus' direction of his congregation.
Well,
he will find out.
That one paragraph, you know, it in one way it makes me feel better because I remember as a witness when they would make application to events in the past and say that they were a fulfillment of prophecy, and at the time I used to always think, I don't see that. I just, like really? It just didn't seem to make sense, and I kind of just shoved it aside as not that important. But now I see the significance of doing that. You're constantly giving the impression of the bigness and the greatness of your organization fulfilling all these prophecies. Well, I don't think the average witness really believes that it was so important. The convention at Cedo, Ohio, it didn't shake the earth. It didn't make all the clergy shake in their boots or the world, stop dead in its tracks listening to them.
Well, obviously Fred, who is the oracle of the organization and writes the books on prophecy, thinks that he is that important. Yeah. Because if 1944 or 1932, because we'll put a link on here to what they've said before about the 2300 days. By the way, originally they thought something completely else. Completely different. They thought, like the Adventists, that the 2300 days were years, and they extended until 1843-44. That was the original understanding. All the rest is just smoke and mirrors since 1914 and the prophetic failure. All the other ones, 1260, 1290, 1335, all of these are smoke and mirrors too, to make yourself more important than God thinks you are in the scheme of things. Or at least delusional. Yeah.
You see yourself everywhere as significant.
You do, everywhere. And we're going to put that link in then to raise later discussion in Search of Christian Freedom. What have they done with those 2300 days since they dropped the idea that they pointed to 1844 and the beginning of the Adventist movement? See you next time.
Bye.